What's up, everyone? My name is Mathew Dale. I'm here to help you play better, sound great, and understand more. And today I'm going to be taking a look at this, the venerable Line6 HX Stomp. Now, many of you probably know me as a Fractal user. I've got my FM3 sitting on the floor over there and my Axe-FX over in my rack over there. And in addition to a healthy curiosity to see just kind of what's going on the Line6 side of things, I actually have a very particular purpose of why I bought this and am using this in a certain situation over my Fractal gear, which I will get into. Now, while I still believe that Fractal is definitely at the top of the game when it comes to component modeling and amp modeling and stuff like that, you really can't ignore Line6's place in the modeling conversation. I'm willing to bet, and I don't have any hard figures or numbers on this, but I'm willing to bet that there are more Helixes and HX Stomps in use on a day-to-day basis than there are with Fractal stuff. I mean, these are available at, any big box store. They're really easy to get your hands on in the international markets, and of course, Fractal is a smaller company and are not available in most stores. If you're in the US, you need to buy direct, or if you're in the EU, then you need to go through G66 and stuff like that. Now, I've only had this for a couple of weeks, so I'm still pretty new to the Line6 way of doing things. So let's take a little bit of a first look through the lens of a Fractal user on things I like and things I don't like, and what I think of the HX Stomp. All right, let's build a quick preset and see what kind of trouble we can get into with the HX Stomp. I am playing my PRS Digit plugged directly into the HX Stomp, and that is plugged directly into my Persona Studio Live 16, going from the TRS outs on the back into my Combo Jack TRS in on the board so that I can bypass my mic pre's and get a more pure signal. And let's start life with an amplifier, as we probably want to, and I really found that the matchless channel 1 is really great. And let's get a cab block here. Let's do a dual cab for a little bit of fun. Let's do both the matchlesses, just, because why not? And let's see what we got before I make any changes to the cabs. Let's hear the amp. Let's bring the drive back a little bit. It's a little bit bassy. I'm not really sure where the cut would be because I'm on this slider. So if I turn this down, is this less high-end cut? Yeah, so I'm going to bring this back. Let's go to the center position here, see how it cleans up. Yeah, I think that sounds good. Here on the, let's do just a little bit of this. I like the drag and drop feature here, which is nice on our cabs. Let's hard pan these guys. I think that sounds good. I think we can adjust some things that we want to for gain, staging, and stuff, but that's a good starting point. Let's get a verb. Dynamic plate. Good old plate reverb sounds like it'll be good. Let's do a little bit more of a, let's just turn the trails on just in case if I weren't to use this as an always on, but I probably would. Because that's what I typically do. And let's see, let's increase the decay a little bit. Yeah, nice and simple. Doesn't need to be too terribly hard. Let's add a little bit of some compression in here. And deluxe comp. Of course, we can have like stereo compression if you want. I just need mono compression. I'm going into my amplifier, and it's kind of sucking the life out of it a little bit. Let's bring the mix back to 84 to 1, And we're already kind of boosting the level. Let's see what it sounds like. Off. With some chords, and on. And off. Some bluesy stuff. I like it. What would the world of guitar be without delay? Let's get a stereo delay, and I'm not super versed on all of these, so I'm just kind of like, here's a dual delay. Let's try a little bit of this, and let's see where we can go with this. I want kind of like a nice lead delay, I think, and we'll do that with one of our snapshots. We'll have like a, you know, a rhythm and a lead type setting, maybe an atmospheric type setting. On the on the right left time, let's do a quarter note and a dotted eighth. Dotted eighth, the standard combination. And let's bring those mixes down, probably like 20-ish%. Just a nice little cloud of, you know, like hamburger helper for your guitar tone. Cool. I like that. I'm going to leave that off for snapshot 1. We'll keep the what do you call this thing? We'll keep the compressor going. There is a Minotaur, a Klon in here, which I like. Let's drop the gain down a bit. Let's put the level up. And it's a little bit bright. Let's back that off a bit. That pushes it really nice. I really like that. I will save this. I'll put this up on my Patreon if you guys want to check this out for yourself. So here's some things that I really like about the HX Stomp just at first glance. I mean, I'm kind of bypassing the form factor. I mean, it's definitely smaller than the FM3, so that's kind of, you know, a bonus, if you will. Great form factor. I really like how Line6 utilizes the Snapshots function. Yes, you can do very similar things with scenes and scene controllers in the Fractal world, but programming those particular parameter changes into the HX Stomp is really easy. Just by pressing in and turning a knob makes that, you know, far less of a daunting experience than, say, how you would use scene controllers in the Fractal world. Now, scene controllers are more versatile, and you can do things like damping, and you can change the time that the parameter will change, and you can do a whole number of customizable things on how that scene controller is interacting with whatever thing. But this is just dead simple to use. Another thing that I really like that you don't see on, of course you do have this on Fractal gear, but like when I was using the GT1000 core, there's a little power switch back here, which I think makes things really easy for leaving your system connected and not having to pull the plug to you know, undo the power or whatever. Just got a little switch back here. I like that. One of my favorite things for playing live with this is the ability to bypass the volume knob control. This is something that I really wish the FM3 and the Axe-FX had. Now, you can go into the ADC settings and you can look at exactly where that knob is. I usually leave my Axe-FX on 75%, and I usually leave my FM3 turned up all the way to 100%. That way I always know where it goes. But just bypassing this knob makes things a lot easier to plug into a soundboard. Now, if I'm just plugged in direct to some FR speakers or whatever, then yes, having this control would be nice. But if you're plugging into a soundboard where someone would be changing, you know, your volume or adjusting your volume on faders, you don't need this here. And in fact, it's actually going to make things more difficult if you're playing somewhere week after week and there's just slight changes on the volume. It's best to just sort of set it and forget it and have it a consistent volume. Good touch, Line6. The favorites function is really great in here as well. This is really similar to the blocks library for us Fractal guys. However, there's one big difference and huge benefit. Where a blocks library for our Fractal gear lives on a computer in your files and wherever you source that library from, the favorites are actually stored locally on this device. So if you are somewhere and you don't have access to your computer or something, then you can still build a preset with all of your favorite sounds just by utilizing that function on the device. There's also great connectivity and controllability when it comes to like controlling things like a DAW or computer software. In addition to your MIDI commands, which this can do a whole slew of, you also get hotkey commands. So you could actually set this up to say, you could set up a switch to be the space bar and launch tracks from a DAW or basically anything. When I was messing around with this, I actually set one of the switches to be my command Q for my Mac, and I used it to close applications. Now, that's not very useful, but it's one of those things where let me just try this and see if it works. And sure enough, if you wanted to use one of these switches to close or switch between applications on your computer, you could. And probably the biggest thing, and probably the main reason I bought this is dual amping. This is something that I really wish the FM3 had. Line6 has a very particular way of doing the whole, they call it dynamic DSP, and basically you can start with any number of blocks imaginable. There's only 8 spaces for those blocks in the HX Stomp, but you could theoretically put in, 2 or 3 reverb blocks if you wanted to. You could do 2, maybe 3 amps, although that's probably stretching it. Realistically, you're getting about 2 amps and 2 cabs out of this. I think I built a preset when I was checking this out with 2 amps, 2 single cabs, and 1 reverb, and I was basically out of DSP for that system. That would work really well in a case where you want this at the end of your chain on an analog board, where this is just doing your dual amping and ambient reverb sounds, and you have analog drives, delays, and modulation effects. But where this differs, Fractal, like on the FM3, you only have one available amp block, one available cab block, and one available reverb block. That's locked in. Even if you have DSP left over, you still can't add in another amp block, where this allows you to do that, which I think is great. That's actually one of the reasons why I bought this, because I'm using this to travel and teach on location. So I built a couple of presets that allow me to plug myself in, and of course it's stereo in, so plug myself in, plug a student in, have independent paths on our own amp and cab change with some effects, and then usually I'm just going, mono output, just a one speaker that I have in the studio that I'm teaching in, or if you wanted to do stereo, you could just do left and right as well. That's kind of standard, and then I can have a setup where, teacher takes a lead or the student takes a lead. Now, I'm plugged into the right side because these are set up to basically use 2 signals. So if I actually go into the mono side, I'll be going through both of these signal chains. But if I only plug into the right side, then I'm actually going through either or. It's thinking like it's still stereo. That's kind of one standard one. I've got a bit more of a high gain option here. And let's see, I think this has a little more of some lead stuff. And here's a clever one where I actually swap which chain either the student or the teacher is on. So on this one, channel A, I think I'm in the lead side. And then swap to the clean side, deluxe reverb. Or a global mute. That way, if you're plugging in and plugging in cables and whatever, just a nice global mute, and that will select which side the particular guitar is on. So I think this is pretty clever and a great case use for the HX Stomp. If you're teaching on location and there's, a powered speaker available in your teaching room like there is with mine, then using this to get some great tones in your lessons is a big win. So good job, Line 6. I'm enjoying this for that purpose. Also, if you want to try out any of those teaching presets for yourself, I will pop those up on my Patreon. That post will have like 4 presets in it. So if you want to check out any of those, you know where to go. Now, with any piece of gear, there's always going to be some compromise, and especially on something that is a very tiny form factor, there's always going to be a few compromises. So I think the first, and this is actually a Helix thing across the board, there's just less amps and cabs than the Fractal stuff. I mean, Fractal has well over 200 amps, well over 2,000 cab IRs. They just released Dynacabs. This actually does a very similar thing to Dynacabs, which I really like, but you just don't have quite the same number of options as you would in a current Fractal piece of gear. Now, I think the quality of the amplifiers in here is great. I'm not really going to compare and contrast like, which deluxe reverb sounds more like the real deluxe reverb or, which Marshall amp sounds the best. You can get great sounds out of this. You can get great sounds out of the Fractal stuff, yada, yada, yada. The amps in here are really, really good, especially the newer Grammatico GSG, I want to say it is. I forget. That is a selectable second channel for overdrive, which I really like. I wish Fractal would also do some stuff where you can activate like a second channel, a second gain channel on the same amp model. This has one amp that does that, and it's a really good amplifier model in here. As clever as the switches are with the, one touch capacitive touch and assign it to whatever it is, they're not as versatile as far as functionality as, say, the FM3 or the FC6 controllers. And one of my big gripes is I can't have a, like a tap and hold function like I would on the Fractal stuff to go between pages where on one side you'd have stomp mode where you have your individual effects, and then I'd like to be able to quickly access, maybe on a double stomp, with the 2 switches, go over to my snapshot select where I have snapshot 1, 2, and 3. There's some aftermarket ways of doing this. I've seen, an aluminum bracket that will actually hit the page buttons. I probably wouldn't recommend that. A really easy workaround would actually just be to use one of these TRS switches. I have a video on how I made this one and another one, and I'll set this to be to go between those pages, so I can get back to, stomp mode or snapshot mode or preset mode or, whatever. So that's a really good workaround for this. I just wish you could also do it on the unit itself. With being a Fractal guy for so long and using the Fractal editors on my computer, I love those editors. It's really easy to get wherever you need to on the computer. I'm not a huge fan of HX Edit, or at least I'm not used to it. I don't really like the sliders, and it seems like when I'm using my mouse and I'm trying to scroll down to something, I get into a point where I think I have more room to scroll down, and I end up scrolling and changing a parameter. I don't really like that so much. So again, I'm pretty new to this, but just first impressions, I'm not the biggest fan. I think the editor's good. I just don't think it's great. It's not as great as, say, Axe Edit or something. And probably my biggest gripe with this unit as far as functionality goes is a lack of meters. Now, on the screen, you have some dots that appear green if it's a good, clean signal on the input side or the output side. And then if you get into a clipping situation, it'll glow red, it'll flash red. But that's about all the meters that we have. I don't have nearly the same amount of metering that I would on my Fractal devices, where you have your block meters, you have your input meter, your output meter, and of course on the editor you have the preset leveling tool where you can see just what signal you are sending out of the device. And you can use that to level match all of your presets. I'm kind of guessing with this, and I'm also using my soundboard to see what level I'm sending out. That's a decent workaround, but again, I'd really like more meters on something like this device. So I hope you enjoyed that quick look at the HX Stomp. I've really been enjoying this. I've been getting some great sounds out of it. As you know, I talked about my pros and my cons. I'm going to do some more videos and probably put some presets up on my website for sounds that I like to get out of this thing. Of course, if you do want any of the presets that I discussed in this video, I will link those in the description below. They'll be on my Patreon. You can try those out for yourself, especially the teaching presets. My name is Mathew Dale. I'm here to help you play better, sound great, and understand more, and I'll see you in the next video.